Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Blind Judgment Podcast. I'm your host, Hugh, and I will be walking you through bizarre true crime cases while you, the listener, as well as my co-host, Jay.
I thought you were going to leave me out of your intro.
But you will be going in blind. So, to start off, if you're new here, how we typically start each episode is I will show Jay a series of photos or clues that are somehow related to the case, and then he's going to use those clues to try to piece together what he thinks this case could be about. So I went ahead, I sent you those pictures, not airdropped, just
We'll get there
messaged.
one day, folks.
We're getting there. Small improvements, baby steps.
Okay. I got the photos.
All right. Let me know what you think.
All right. Photo number 1. It's an image of holding hands. 2 people holding hands. One is a child and one is an adult. Second photo looks like it's an old-timey pickup truck, it's a Dodge Ram, clean, but it's just a truck in the picture. And third picture is of a strip club, empty strip club. Picture number 4, we're in a classroom with a bunch of little kids, maybe like first graders, raising their hands. And the final picture is of an empty, desolate highway with the fog looming over it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
All right, so there's definitely a kid in the picture. So we have the first picture, a kid being held by the hand. I want to say that this is kind of a dark thing, but like maybe somebody led a kid out into like an open field. And why is there a strip club, a pickup truck, and a highway? Okay, let me process.
Take your time.
These clues don't really connect in an
I
easy...
made this one tricky for you on purpose.
Okay, maybe here's where I'm going. Maybe we're talking about like a teacher. So somebody who teaches young kids, maybe also was a stripper at night.
A daytime teacher, a nighttime stripper.
I'm gonna take that back.
Okay.
That'd be hilarious. All right, so I'm thinking maybe a teacher has something to do with it. Maybe not so much kids, but I'm gonna say a teacher was hanging out at a strip club, right? Maybe she's blowing off some steam because you know them kids of today, they're horrible. And she jumped in some dude's truck because it was a nice old school truck and it reminded her of the good old days. And she hops in and then she gets taken down this road and guess what? It's a dead end. Locking it in.
All right, you need to reel it back in. Is this the Liam Payne episode part 2? I fear it is.
All right, I'll restart.
No,
let's just start over.
I think it's good. What are you talking about?
Oh, I thought you meant like it's over.
No, I don't think it's over. I just thought it was a really funny, a good take. I guess I know what's ahead and you don't. But I think it's good. So are you locking that in?
I don't even remember what I said, but I'm going to lock it in. But look, for real, you've been hyping this episode up.
For a while.
Anyways, you've been hyping this episode up.
I've been hyping it up all day. So before we get into it, this is a case that is a little bit more well-known, but I think it fits the profile of cases that we select to cover very well. I will also tell you that this is a case that has like a lot of moving parts. There are a lot of names. There's a whole cast of characters. A lot of dates, timelines are kind of convoluted. This is a pretty long story.
Do I have to take notes?
You don't have to take notes, but feel free to stop me if you need clarification on something. And
Are you calling me stupid?
I'm not calling you stupid. I just understand that this is a very confusing case.
Oh, okay.
So I will try to answer you as best as I can, but there are a lot of reveals in this case, so I might not be able to fully answer you. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
Okay. Well, with that, let's get into the episode. So today we're covering the case of Sharon Marshall. Have you heard that name before?
What do you think?
You have not. In fact, I know you haven't. But to start it off, I would like to show you a few pictures of Sharon Marshall.
Okay.
So look over at my screen. So here's Sharon.
All right, we got a couple of portraits.
Yeah, what do you think?
Okay, we're like in the 80s. We got big
We're
hair.
in the 80s. Yeah.
Big hair, but she looks very happy. And then in another picture, it looks like maybe she's out in a bathing suit, just having a good old time.
Yeah.
She looks like a happy person.
She's a beautiful, happy girl. She really is. This is her, this photo here on the left is her senior portrait. So, yeah, here she is. Okay. So, Atlanta, Georgia, 1986. Sharon Marshall is getting ready to graduate from high school. So she's like 18 at this point. Okay. So Sharon is a very bright student. She has excellent grades. She's very involved with her high school's ROTC program. And I think she's like pretty high ranking. I guess I don't understand like the ranking system for ROTC, but she's pretty high up there. So yeah, she's got really good grades. And her favorite subject is math. And her life goal, like her dream, is to become an astronaut and work for NASA.
That's awesome.
So that is her goal. That is what she is constantly working towards. So she works her butt off and she ends up getting a full ride scholarship to Georgia Tech, and she's going to study aerospace engineering there.
Nice.
Yeah, she's got a very bright future. However, she declines the scholarship and does not attend college, severs all ties with her high school friends because she is pregnant. So she gives birth to the child, who she places up for adoption. And she moves down to Tampa, Florida. And she's living with this guy. He's a much, much older man. His name is Franklin Floyd. So now I'm going to show you just a few photos of Franklin.
Is this the baby daddy?
It is not the baby daddy.
What the heck?
Here he is. So this is Franklin Floyd. He's about
70 years old.
He's 30 years her senior. And these
He looks
pictures
much
are taken.
older than that.
Well, no, these pictures are taken at different times.
It's just a creepy old dude with the mustache, gray mustache. Yeah, I mean, he just
Looks like a freaking creep.
doesn't look like he has any
slimy.
teeth in his mouth.
Again, another person who just makes my stomach flip-flop. Gross. He makes the little hairs on the back of your neck stand up. He's very spooky. Now, when she's down there, she ends up getting pregnant again. And to be clear, Franklin is not the father of this child either. So whether or not he knew that is unclear, but she does keep this child. It's a boy, and she names him Michael. And oh My gosh, this kid is so cute. Let me show you a couple pictures of him just so you have a good idea.
Wait, you're saying that he thought he was the baby daddy?
We don't know. I don't know if he at the time knew he was the father or not.
Wait, so he
Um,
did have a relationship with her?
they were living together, yeah.
All right.
So here's Michael. This is the little boy. Darling. Isn't he
Yeah.
so cute? Look at his eyes. He's so stinking cute. So it's the three of them. Sharon, Franklin, and Michael are all living together in this like derelict trailer.
This is so weird already. Off the rip.
Oh, baby. You just buckle up. All I can tell you is you better buckle up.
Buckle up, bucko.
Buckle up, bucko. So they're living in this derelict trailer, and money is pretty tight for this family. Franklin works a series of odd jobs, and he's employed intermittently as a painter. But again, he's like considerably older than her. He's got like joint issues, back problems, so he doesn't really like work that much. And so it's really up to Sharon to bring in the money. So at Franklin's pushing at his request, she starts working as an exotic dancer. And she works at this very nice club in Tampa. It's pretty high end. And she is very popular with the other dancers. They all really like her a lot. They say she's really smart, she's funny, she's kind of shy and naive. She's definitely guarded. But she's just overall pretty likable.
Yeah.
And her guarded nature, they kind of chalk it up to the fact that Franklin is extremely controlling over her. Okay. In some very, very dark ways. So there was an incident at the club where Sharon was working a private party, and it came out that she was offering to perform sex acts in exchange for money. And so the manager told her, he's like, obviously, you cannot do that. Like, that's illegal. You're going to get us shut down. And she claims that Franklin told her to do it so she could make some extra money.
Dang.
Yeah. So he also calls up to the club to check in on her a lot. He is very overbearing. And the girls at the club do not like him. But the one who dislikes him the most is Sharon's best friend at the club, Cheryl Ann Camesso. And really quick, I'm going to show you some pictures of Cheryl Ann. All right, if you want to look over.
Okay.
So this is Cheryl Ann. You
I
can
like
tell
Cheryl. She looks feisty and she looked like she'll stick up for her friends.
Oh, she is fiery. She is extremely feisty. And you can even tell, like, with she's got her big 80s
I bet you
hair.
she's answered the phone whenever homeboys called and she was like,
Never
she
call
ain't
you like
here, bitch. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And I mean, by all accounts, like, you are describing her perfectly. And her and Sharon are super duper close. They're about the same age, like 18, 19. And she's so feisty. They're like yin and yang. Sharon is very like guarded. She's a little bit reserved, and Cheryl is super outspoken. She's brazen. She's a bad bitch. She drives this like bright red Corvette.
Dang.
Like, she is that girl.
You didn't get any pictures of the Corvette for me?
Oh,
Come on, that would have been
I can't really reveal.
That would have been a useful photo.
It would have spoiled some reveals.
Okay, fine.
All right, so yeah, she drives this Corvette. She's that girl. She's like a bad bitch. And so obviously Franklin hates her. All right. He hates the fact that Sharon hangs around with her. And they get into fights pretty much every time they are around each other. And one day, the three of them are hanging out together. And they're actually hanging out with Michael. And both Sharon and Franklin get into this fight with Cheryl, and it is a very bad, like all out fight. It's actually on a boat in the ocean. But they get into this massive fight. They get bad. They get back.
Wait, they were ganging up on Cheryl?
So it's 2 versus 1. It's Sharon and Franklin versus Cheryl.
Weird.
They're getting into it. The cause of the fight is unclear. But it gets so bad that Cheryl actually calls the Department of Family Services, and she reports that Sharon has been lying about her income so she can get food stamps and welfare. So, like, obviously, Sharon is working as a dancer, so the majority of her money is going to be cash that comes in. So she's not she's not declaring it, you know, just so that way she can get those extra benefits, the food stamps and the welfare.
Right.
So Cheryl calls, Sharon gets investigated, and she gets her food stamps and her welfare taken away. So she loses that.
Dang, don't mess with Cheryl.
You can tell by those pictures, you don't mess with her. So things get pretty heated. And it gets to a point where Franklin would show up to the club and he would harass Cheryl, threaten her with violence, like the whole nine, like really intimidating this
And
woman.
so Cheryl and Shannon had a falling out at this point.
They have a major falling out. And I mean, ultimately, you could argue the root of it really is this guy, Franklin.
Yeah.
You know?
He's gross.
He's super gross, okay? So in March of 1989, Cheryl contacts her parents and she tells them that she's going through a rough patch and she wants to come home for a little while. However, she never comes home. No one ever hears from her ever again. So by March 15th, she is declared a missing person. Her red Corvette was found abandoned in the St. Petersburg Clearwater Airport on April 7th. And so for a while, investigators believe that she had gotten onto a flight somewhere and ran off because she's an adult and she can do whatever she wants. But her family and friends don't think that that's the case. And they suggest that they look into her former friends, Franklin and Sharon. So before we go any further, I've thrown some info at you. Where are you at right now? Do you need anything clarified? I'll try to answer it to the best of my abilities at this point.
It's hard for me to... I guess it all happened very quickly where she was like a great student. She got a scholarship. Her whole life's ahead of her. And then 2 seconds later, she's pregnant, has a baby, moves in with this weird dude. Like, that just seems very abrupt. And maybe that's how it happened. But is there any more detail you can add around that?
At this point, I can't give you any information. You will get that information, but I can't reveal it right now.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess that's mainly what I'm thinking about. It seems like she was just almost brainwashed or something. Like, it just seems so... Like, I'm wondering if the people around here at this point are thinking like, man, what happened to Sharon? Or if it's like, I knew this is what Sharon was going to end up as, you know, or like, I don't know, you know, like what kind of person was she? I don't know, but that's
I can't reveal that to you at this point.
But you know, that's where my head's at. And yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, she was almost just brainwashed by this dude, and now he's just taking advantage of her, and she's doing his bidding, making them money, and he's gross.
Weird. So, it's gross.
That's where I'm at.
All right. Well, let's get back into it. So, pretty much immediately after Cheryl's disappearance, Franklin and Sharon moved to Oklahoma after their trailer mysteriously burns down. Mysteriously. So, they relocate to Tulsa and they change their names to Clarence Hughes and Tanya Tadlock because that's something that two completely innocent people do.
Yeah. Okay.
And then they get married. So Sharon becomes a dancer in a club in Tulsa. But at this point, she is kind of like breaking out of her shell. She's getting closer to some of the dancers that are there. And she starts to open up to them. And she tells them that she is in a dark, controlling situation with her husband. She desperately wants to get her and her son far away from him as soon as possible. But she's afraid to leave him because she says that he will kill me if I leave. So Franklin is probably aware of this because he will not allow Sharon to be alone with Michael. She can't go anywhere with him. So that would definitely make leaving with him pretty tricky. However, she does eventually make plans to sneak Michael away and to leave with a guy who she has been in a secret relationship with.
Uh-oh.
However, on April 25th, 1990, three guys are driving a truck down the highway just outside of Oklahoma City when they see something on the side of the road. They pull over and they see all kinds of groceries and like various other personal items are like kind of strewn around on like the grass on the side on the shoulder.
Okay, got it.
And just a few feet off of the side of the road, they see the body of a young woman. They assume that this woman is the victim of a hit and run. So the police are called. She's taken to the hospital in critical condition, and she is eventually identified as Tanya Hughes, or as we know her, Sharon Marshall. So she's in critical condition, and they are assessing her wounds, and they notice that she is absolutely like covered in bruises, like head to toe, covered in bruises, and they are all at like various stages of healing.
Okay.
Okay. So
it's an ongoing thing.
It's an ongoing thing. So these injuries would be consistent with like long-term repeated abuse. So Franklin's notified and he is sitting bedside with her throughout this whole ordeal. But not in like a supportive, caring kind of way. It's more like he's controlling her, like even in this, critical state.
Yeah, he's trying to control the narrative.
He's controlling her. He's controlling the narrative surrounding this accident.
This doesn't look good on him.
Not at all. He will also not allow any of her friends, like the dancers at the club, to come and visit her. He's just like watching her over her every single minute. So despite showing signs of improvement, Sharon unfortunately succumbed to her injuries and died on April 30th. She was just 20 years old.
Dang.
Do you have any thoughts right now?
Crazy story. I definitely feel how she could be controlled by some dude who's telling her, I'm going to kill you if you leave me. And I don't know, whenever you said that, I like felt it. And that's just very scary and sad, situation for somebody to be in. So that sucks. And I definitely think somehow he's involved or responsible.
He for sure is. It's weird. Because she was like She was going into stable condition. She was actively getting better, and then she just completely turned the corner on that fifth day.
She died on the fifth day. So like any days before that, was she
She's not
conscious enough?
conscious. No.
Okay. Because I figured if she was, she would have probably told the nurse, like, get this guy out of here. Like, he's the last person I need by my bedside.
No, she was in a coma. She was comatose.
Got it.
But she was showing signs of improvement.
Okay.
So while she was in the hospital, Sharon's doctors took note of the state that her body was in. There were clear signs of abuse, and the police were already starting to investigate Franklin. Not only because of the suspicions of abuse, but because they believe he had something to do with her death. Additionally, he was trying very hard to get his hands on her life insurance policy, which he himself had taken out a mere 2 months before she died, before this accident happened. So pretty recent. But the whole time, they have his name as Clarence Hughes. It's this new identity, this phony identity. So they don't really know who this guy is. They don't know that he's wanted for questioning in the disappearance of Cheryl Ann Camesso. So they don't know don't know anything about him. Right? They can't really get him on anything. So he seemingly kind of skates away, but he makes a huge mistake. So when filling out the information to receive that life insurance money, he gave his real name and his real social security number. So then investigators uncovered his checkered past. So right now I'm going to give you just a little bit of backstory into Franklin. Okay. So Franklin was born in 1943 in Barnesville, Georgia. He was the youngest of 5 children. His father died when he was only a year old, and his mother deeply struggled to support the children on her own. And so he, along with his siblings, they were sent to go live in like an orphanage, kind of like group home situation that was run by a church.
Okay.
And it was a very, very, very bad situation. He was mentally, physically, and sexually abused by the other children there. And he actually remained there until he was about 16 years old. And that is when his criminal career started. So at first he was just breaking into stores and stealing merchandise. He was breaking into houses. But things took a turn when in 1962, he kidnapped a 4-year-old girl and sexually assaulted her.
Dang, that escalated real quick.
He was sentenced to only 10 to 20 years in prison, but they ended up taking him to like an asylum, like a psychiatric facility.
Right.
And he ends up getting released in 1973. But also, so at this time, he actually escaped this asylum. He like fully escaped one time, and he ended up robbing this like bank. It was like a credit union.
This guy's
he
insane.
stole like $6,000. He is crazy. And then 2 other times he tried to escape, and yet they still released this man after serving only like 10 years.
Dude, I feel like life in those days is so crazy. Like just lawless. Like how is this guy able to do all this stuff?
Crazy. Only 10 years. And he has committed a litany of crimes.
I mean, you got to give this guy credit though. Like everything he did, he kind of, like everything he put his mind to, he kind of succeeded with. Like I need to escape out of jail. Done. You know what I'm saying?
That's crazy. So crazy. Well, so when he gets released in 1973, within a month, he sexually assaults another woman. and he's charged, but he's able to get out on bond, and then he just kind of like dips. So he doesn't show up for his court hearing. And then by this time, he's going by a new name, Brandon Williams. So he's on the run, and he ends up meeting this woman, Sandra Brandenburg, and they get married. Now, Sandra, she has 4 kids that she brings into the marriage from several previous relationships. Okay, so these are not his biological children.
Got it.
They all have different dads. So Sandra's kids are Susie, who's the oldest. Then there's Allison, Amy, and Philip. They range in age from like 6 to 2. So Sandra, Franklin's wife, she's kind of got her own issues, and she ends up going to prison for a couple of months because she was writing some bad checks. And she leaves her children under the care of Franklin.
Oh, no.
So when she's released, Brandon, or we know him as Franklin, is nowhere to be found. He has completely vacated their residence, and all of her kids are missing. She later finds out that Franklin took her kids and drove them all around to different states and counties and dropped them off into foster care under different names.
Like each one by one?
Each one by one.
Separating them? Dang.
Completely
This guy's
separating them
crazy.
in different states, different counties. They have different names,
Wow.
so they're difficult to track. And then he just kind of goes off on the run again under his various identities. So eventually this woman, Sandra, she finds her 2 middle children, the girls, Amy and Allison, but she never finds her youngest, her son, and her oldest daughter. All right, we'll pause there. Any thoughts on Franklin's past?
Again, like this guy just seems to suck people in or brainwash them, or he seems to get things that he wants pretty easily. You know? Like he met this girl, she had a family, and then, you know, he's able to get her to marry him. Anyways.
Crazy. He's a very manipulative person.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go back to 1990. So Sharon has just died. Franklin's trying to get the insurance money. And I bet you're wondering, well, what about Michael? Sharon's son. What about Michael? Are you going to respond? Okay. So before Franklin runs again, he drops Michael off into foster care, which is arguably one of the best things he could have ever done for this child. So at this point, Michael's 2, and he is pretty far behind on a lot of milestones. So he's got like limited motor function, he's nonverbal, he's got a lot of emotional outbursts. I mean, this is a child living under a lot of pressure. So he gets placed with this awesome foster family. And when he's with them, he's like in a routine. He's doing normal things. He sees significant improvement. However, because Franklin is his father, he has to have these like visitations with him, right? And Michael is terrified of Franklin.
Oh, no.
He becomes hysteric when he has to see him.
Dang.
He begs not to go to the visitation. I mean, this little boy,
That's crazy.
he's petrified to be even around this man.
And the last time he saw him was when he was 2? Or I guess that's when he left his custody, right?
Yes, that's when he left his custody, when he was 2
crazy.
years old. So Franklin ends up getting arrested, as he does. And the foster family decides that they want to adopt Michael. So in order to do that, they have to establish paternity. So they do this DNA test and they discover that Franklin is not Michael's biological father.
Oh, wow.
So when that comes out, Franklin no longer has access to him because he's given up custody of Michael and he has no familial relationship with Michael. So they completely cut the cord on him. Franklin can no longer have anything to do with Michael.
Right. Oh, yeah, because Michael was the son of his wife.
Sharon.
Oh,
correct.
wait. Sharon.
Sharon, yes.
Got it.
This is Sharon's son. And obviously, this is an issue for Franklin because he always wants to have control. September 16th of 1994. Michael is 6 years old now, and he is attending his first grade class at the Indian Meridian Elementary School in Choctaw, Oklahoma. Franklin Floyd walks into the school. He goes into the principal's office and he demands that the principal give him Michael, that he needs to take Michael. And the principal is kind of privy to the situation, so he tells him that he can't do that. Which to that, Franklin points a gun at him and tells him that he is going to take Michael.
Jeez.
So he forces the principal at gunpoint. They go into Michael's classroom.
Oh, my God.
And they take Michael. He then forces Michael and the principal into the principal's pickup truck and makes the principal drive them out to this remote, heavily wooded area.
Wait, when they go in the classrooms to get Michael, does he have the principal like at gunpoint?
I mean, I would assume yes, but he does it really, really discreetly. Like the police are not called until after they leave the school. So I don't think that maybe anybody saw it. I'm not entirely sure.
Okay. Maybe he just told him, like, go in there, get Michael.
Correct. Yeah.
Got it.
So Franklin has the principal take him and Michael to this heavily wooded, very secluded area. He makes the principal get out of the truck and he ties him to a tree where he leaves him to succumb to the elements.
What the heck?
So he leaves him out there and then he absconds with Michael. So luckily, the police arrive in time to rescue the principal, but they are unable to find Michael and Franklin. Several months later, Franklin Floyd is arrested in Louisville, Kentucky, but he is without Michael. Michael is nowhere to be found. So they interrogate Franklin, and he is not saying a peep. He is completely uncooperative with the police. He tells them that he has Michael somewhere and they will never, ever find him, which is super frustrating.
Yeah. And spooky.
Super spooky, super frustrating. But the good news is that they have Franklin. He's in custody and he is not going anywhere. It is just a matter of time before the truth comes out. But this is not at all where the story ends. We still have a little bit to go. I'm going to check in again. Where are you at?
Wait, so the police are just thinking about holding him until he fessed up?
They're holding him. I mean, they already have him on the crime of kidnapping.
Okay.
And attempted murder
Okay.
of the principal.
I was like, how can they hold him?
They've already got him on
I see what you're saying.
crimes. And they also have him on identity fraud as well. So they have him. They've got him. It's just a matter of time before more things start to come out.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
So he's behind bars. a trial is pending. But meanwhile, in Kansas, a mechanic is inspecting a truck that he recently purchased at auction when he discovers an envelope containing about 97 photographs. And these pictures are graphic, they're explicit. There are many photos that depict a young woman who has been badly beaten and tied up. So naturally, this mechanic, he turns these photos into the police, and eventually they trace this truck back to Franklin Floyd. So apparently he had stolen this truck a while back when he and Sharon had just moved to Oklahoma. So he stole this truck, and then somehow or another it ended up in a junkyard and got auctioned off. But this truck at some point was in Franklin's possession. Okay.
Got it.
So those are his pictures. So the investigators compare the pictures of the beaten woman to the photos of Cheryl Comesso, and they confirm that that is her.
Dang.
So yeah, they're like, that's her. And then that kind of implicates him in her disappearance/murder. However, there are more pictures, and the vast majority of them show this very young girl, a very little girl. So there are these pictures of him assaulting her in various explicit positions, just very, very dark things. So they do some investigation, and they discover that the girl in those pictures is the missing oldest daughter of the ex-wife that he had abandoned, Sandra. Do you follow?
The one who had kids, who brought 4 kids into the marriage? Wait.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's her oldest daughter. Okay.
Right. Wow.
So the thing is, that girl is not just the missing daughter. She's Sharon.
Wait. Sharon.
She's Sharon. So Franklin was married to this woman. She had 4 kids that she brought into the relationship. The oldest of the 4 children was a girl named Susie. So Sandra, Franklin's wife, went to prison and left those 4 kids under the care of Franklin. When that happened, Franklin took the 4 kids, the 3 youngest ones, he dropped them off in foster care and he separated them. But he kept the oldest, her name was Susie, with him, changed her name to Sharon, and then posed as her father for her entire life.
Okay, so, and then she went to high school.
She went to high school.
And then graduated, was going to go to college, but then was pregnant.
She was pregnant. He was never going to let her go to college.
But the baby wasn't.
The baby wasn't his, no.
What the heck?
But he was sexually abusing her the entire time. One of her friends who she went to high school with, she has this story of, she went over to Sharon's house, and Sharon had a bunch of lingerie, and she told her that her dad had bought it for her and makes her dress up in it, and had confided in her that her dad was having sex with her and all this. So this poor girl.
Jesus, but it's not really her dad.
It's not
just
really
some guy
her
who
dad.
Kidnapped her.
It's some guy who was married to her mom and kidnapped her.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
How old was she Susie whenever her mom met this guy.
She was 4.
I wonder if she has any recollection of that.
I mean, I
Like,
don't know.
did she believe from the jump that he was the father?
And that is what is kind of like, no, like nobody knows. Nobody knows. Did she know the whole time? I mean, and it's just so sad to think that this was this girl's entire life. Like she just grew
She
up with
lived in
this.
a lie.
She didn't know any different.
Y-
She didn't know any different. So
Yeah, like
like
her own identity was
a
stolen from
fake
her. Like,
stolen from her, and she was manipulated her entire existence by this man. And then he raised her as his daughter. He was like super involved with her as pretending to be her dad whenever she was like young and in high school. And then when she turns 18, forces her to become a stripper and, among other things. It's terrifying.
I wonder if he beat her, like started beating her when he found out she was pregnant. Or I guess he maybe assumed it was his. I don't know.
We don't know.
That is next level manipulation. That
So crazy. Where are you at right now?
I'm like literally trying to think back at how you started the podcast, and I'm trying to just make sense of everything. And it's all
It's a lot. It's a lot.
I'm literally thinking like, wait, am I remembering this correctly, or am I remembering like another episode we recorded, or what? But no, I get it. It makes sense. But it seems so incredible, like unbelievable that something like this could ever happen. It sounds like a movie.
It's insane. It is absolutely insane. That's what I said to you. I was like, let me know if you need me to stop and explain, to check in if you need me to answer anything.
Oh man. And I guess like committing crime was kind of easy back then if as long as you just
It's way
change your name
different. Yeah.
afterwards. Like
And you move to a different state.
move to a different state, change your name and just do whatever you want. And like even that, I don't even know how you even do that. Like how do you even get a driver's license?
Bro, I don't
under another name.
even know.
Like
this is insane. Like this whole story, I have no idea, one, how he was able to do this, and two, how he was able to pull it off for so
this guy is just like super talented at breaking the law. Seriously.
Yeah, like a career criminal.
He's a career criminal. Like he's a professional.
Yeah. It's
he had no, it's kind of like he didn't like he went as far as he could until he could reach his limits. I feel like that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
He was just breaking law after law. And he's like, man, I can get away with anything, and just pushed it and pushed it and kind of turned it into a game. Like I wonder what inspired this plan.
Yeah. I mean, like obviously whenever he was a kid, I guess in that orphanage, like what changed? What like snapped for him to make him live this kind of life? And not only live this kind of life, but to torment other human beings like this? Like it's so crazy to me. And like not just that, but to bring it around, like think about his first serious crime that he committed. He kidnapped a little girl and assaulted her, and he got 10 years in a psychiatric unit, which he escaped from.
Yeah.
And like, it's just crazy to me to think, because, with the whole thing with prison, it should be about rehabilitation, but it makes you wonder, like a person like this, are they capable of rehabilitation?
I bet you he fooled everybody he came into contact with. He manipulated everybody. This is what it sounds like. Like this guy sounds like he has something, some kind of skill, some kind of magic power where he can just get his way.
Yeah.
Something about him. Like, I don't know, but it just seems like he knew how to weasel himself out of any situation. It's just what it seems like.
My God. I feel like this is just like one of those cases that is just like punch after punch after punch. I feel like around every corner, it's like a difficult topic to talk about, you know?
Yeah.
All right. So, one last bit of information. So, in 1995, human remains are found on the side of the highway outside of Clearwater, Florida. And they're kind of able to compare the injuries that the skeleton sustained whenever they look at like the skull. And they're comparing it with the pictures that they have. And they're able to identify those remains as that of Cheryl Ann Camesso. So Franklin is charged and he is found guilty of her murder. He is also found guilty of kidnapping Michael and is sentenced to death.
Wow.
In 2014, Franklin tells the police that he killed Michael back in 1994 and he dumped his body on the side of the road. Unfortunately, his body has never been recovered. And Franklin died on death row of natural causes on January 23rd of 2023.
Wow.
Good riddance. It's really a bummer that he got to live for so long. It's crazy.
Yeah, this guy sounds like a psychopath. 100%.
Absolute psycho. All right, so let's conclude. So I think this case really highlights the impact of domestic abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse, that this poor woman suffered at the hands of this like freaking abhorrent gremlin, Franklin Floyd. And again, I think it's also important to note that had he received a harsher punishment for his first crime, maybe none of this would have ever happened. You know, I mean, clearly he's unable to be reformed.
Yeah, like the justice system did not do what it was supposed to do.
They did not do what they were supposed to do at all. I feel like it really failed. It really failed, and many people were impacted. But that's my take on this case. Do you have any concluding thoughts? How do you feel knowing now? How do you think that compares to your initial judgment of the case based on the pictures I sent you?
It's hard for me to even think back that far because this story
It's
is
been a wild ride.
taking a lot of twists and
Wild ride.
turns. So it's hard for me to even remember where we started. But no, I mean, those pictures were tough. They didn't really give away too much, and they all just there's just so many chapters of this story, and I get how each the pictures make sense, but these chapters are just so wild that they don't seem to even connect unless you have a crazy person like Franklin in the middle of it, just living out this crazy life.
Yeah.
There's no way that anybody would have gotten those pictures just because the story's so crazy.
Well, I made it difficult for you on purpose because I didn't want to make it too obvious, and I still wanted to save my reveals because I feel like it's so much more impactful. It's kind of like that case that we covered a couple episodes back. What is it called? The one, it's the mom and the dad, and then the dad kills the mom. Looking for crystals. You know, this case really reminds me but it's like the same feel as that Looking for Crystals episode, right? Where I just kind of wanted you to be along for the ride. I wanted you to just listen along and
like buckle in. Enjoy the
just
ride.
Listen.
Yeah, because
enjoy
it
the
is
ride.
crazy. It's very cinematic. Like I'm like, man, how is this not a movie yet?
They
Or
did
a show.
they made a documentary about it
Yeah.
a couple of years ago. Netflix did. And I feel like it didn't get as much attention.
Are you saying we're better than Netflix?
We're not better than Netflix. I did tell the story a little differently than Netflix does. But this is just a really crazy case.
Yeah.
I am glad you stuck around. You're a good sport. You listened through the whole thing.
I mean, that was tough to keep track of. There were a lot of people in it.
I was expecting you to stop me a lot and ask me questions because there are a lot of moving parts.
I can't do that because then you'll know how stupid and lost I really am.
Honey, I already know.
Wow. My feelings aren't hurt by that
at
all.
Come on, it's a chiste.
Whatever. Freaking injured little stupid episode already.
All right. Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode. We appreciate every single one of you. We love you, and we will see you on the next episode.
Later, y'all.
Okay. Bye-bye.